people get married young and are wildly in love and will be willing to do whatever it takes to work it out no matter what season of life they go through. And somebody could get married at 30 and be very stubborn and set in their ways and unwilling to change in any way. And that marriage is going to be very difficult because no matter what, both those scenarios, you have to learn how to mesh and come together with another person. You have to learn how to become a team and work together in every season. Every season.
And both parties have to be willing to do that.
Both parties.
And I think that's where, especially like church, I think submit, coming back to that word, is like, well, if you would just submit to me, then, everything's great. Why? Because I'm getting what I want. But both parties need to submit to love,
right,
rather than
rules, which is big time what you did. I mean, through that counseling and through those next years, you really loved me in a different way, in a new way, in like a mature love, and you really gave me grace in all the situations, and I do think it was that initial, like, you just get scared, that it could be over, and at that time, people, you just got to decide: do I want to fight for this, and are both people wanting to fight for it? And I mean, even then, sometimes both parties are willing to fight, and it still ends in divorce because they just get to the point where they're like, I can't change the way I feel, So that can happen too. But thankfully, me and you are open. I think we are open to change, and that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. For you to all of a sudden accept me for all my flaws and everything that, in your opinion, I really would be better if I changed. You're just like, I accept her for that. I mean, that's grace, and for me to do the same to you, that takes work, and that takes really dying to yourself, in a sense of your own personal opinions of what you think you're absolutely right on, that a person should do or a person should be. But you got to let that person be who they are. And they're not going to stay. I'm not going to stay 37-year-old Liz. When I'm 47, you're going to have a different form of me,
Whoop, whoop.
People have accidents.
Based on experiences, you're going to have grandkids. Kids are going to be going to college. Right.
People get hurt. People get sick. You might have to take care of somebody. Your kid. You're going through stuff with your kids. I mean, this process of coming together as a team is just an over and over and over and over process, and it takes not being selfish, and it takes maturity, and it most of all, I think, takes grace and willing. I mean, you could really sum it up, be willing to change.
It's a funny thing, like Grace, because I know I would get mad at you for being on the couch and sleeping, and then I'd want to go take a nap and sleep. And I was sitting there and I was like, why is it all right for me to yell at her, be mad at her for wanting to sleep, but then here really in my heart of heart, I want to sleep also? And it's kind of like the things I wanted, I was yelling at you about, and once I realized
you were jealous.
Right. It's okay for her to sleep. It's okay for me to sleep. Like, we don't have to have these responsibilities. We don't have to put this pressure on ourselves or each other, and that's, for me, grace was not only for you or the other person, like, I've got to give grace, I got to give grace, I got to give. It was also for me, the individual, and I think that's what we need to probably push the most is have grace for yourself, as a woman who's in a marriage, have grace for yourself. As a man who's in a marriage, you have grace for the mistakes you've made, have grace for, the things that were said. But the great thing about it is once I get grace for how mean I was to you, well, now I can also change that. I can say, man, I sure was a jerk. I was terrible. I pushed you to the edge of divorce. But I have grace that I am sorrowful about that, but now I also have grace that I can change that. I can change our situation. I can change our circumstances. It doesn't have to be the same way over and over. It doesn't have to be the end. I have grace for myself, for you, and for the future to be able to keep on going forward. Honestly, that's probably the backbone of where we're at today is because of the grace that we give each other and ourselves.
Right. When you think about someone through the eyes of love, you see them different. When I see the love inside of you, that's who you really are. You could say the Jesus inside of you, the Jesus that lives inside of you. That's the truth of who you are. That's the real Ben. The real Ben is completely loving and kind and creative and fun. And I know who you are in all of the times. So when I look at you, I see you. I'm gonna start crying. I don't know why. I see that love. I see that person, and I'm totally fine with submitting to that because I'm submitting to love. I'm submitting to the Jesus Ben, And even when you're in your flesh and you're not that, that's okay. I still see you the same, and you're not required to act any way for me. You're not required to perform to fit my needs on a daily basis. It's okay. You're tired. You need to rest. You don't want to go somewhere. It's okay. We can find a different way. We can do it a different way. I don't have to have my way. You can be you and I can be me, and we can just come together. We can work together, work it out.
And you probably would hear things like that at a conference or stuff like that, or desire that to be the beginning of our marriage, but it wasn't. But now that we know, it's the no going back, and it's our marriage is so much easier now.
We were both stubborn and prideful, and those are like blockers. At the beginning, it's like, if you're prideful, you're not willing to change. That's what that means. Pride means I'm right and I'm unwilling to change my mind. And that's like a roadblock. You're not going to get anywhere when you can't make the decision. You know what? It's possible that what they're saying has some truth to it, and you gotta lay that pride down, and that selfishness, like, I'm just going to do what I want all the time, and that's where I was getting in the marriage when I was wanting it to be. I was getting selfish. I was like, I'm just going to do what I want, that's the way I was going to start living. And that's going to be a blocker, that's going to be a roadblock right there. So, it's a continually giving up for the other person, but that does not mean I give up who I am. It does not mean I stop being myself. I want to be my true self. I want to be a vibrant, full of life person, ready and able and willing to love other people in the right way, because when you're a well-loved person, you can love other people, in the way that they need to be loved. So I can still be myself and at the same time give up things for you, be selfless, So you can do both things.